is SMR Congress 2014 here in Nice. I have Debra Searle with us, professional adventurer and excellent keynote presenter, to answer a few of our questions. So, the first question I wanted to ask you, which is a little bit funny, you mentioned in your presentation that you had told your guidance counselor that you wanted to be a professional adventurer, and now you are and have been. So have you ever gone back to said guidance counselor or said school and talked to them about this?
I haven't actually spoken to the particular lady who I said it to, but I have been back to the school and kind of, presented the prizes at speech day and things like that. And it was an interesting response because, of course, nobody, my parents, it wasn't just the school, nobody believed I would be able to do it as a full-time career. So I should dig her out, shouldn't I, and say, hey, look at my business card.
So do you, as a result of, what you do, you're kind of in the media a little bit more, do you get other young people coming up to you and saying, like, I also want to be a professional adventurer?
Yeah, I get a lot of email, social media from people saying, how can I do your job? People who love adventure or the great outdoors, and they want to be able to make a living out of it. And of course it's very difficult because essentially I was able to do this as a career because one of my stories, one of my expeditions became a huge news story around the world. And it wasn't because we planned it that way. We never sent out a press release or anything. It just, it was just the way that the press picked it up. So that gave me a head start. And so I always say to the young people, you've got to really do something that catches the press's imagination if you're going to make a start in this. And they would say, oh, well, I could row the Atlantic. And I said, well, you could, but nobody's really interested in that. If maybe you get your leg bitten off by a shark halfway across, then that's a news story. But, just people rowing across the Atlantic in general, the press aren't really that interested in it. So it's hard for them to get their head around the mindset of, what makes a good news story.
Mm-hmm. So you talked a little bit in your presentation that you gave to us about all the preparation that you guys did before starting off on the race. But I was wondering, what sparked the idea to do the race in the first place?
What sparked the original idea was that I had met Andrew. He's an international rower, so he kept on saying to me, oh, I want to come and do one of your expeditions. And because of our height difference, he's 6'5" and I'm tiny, it was really difficult to find a sport that we could do together with our incompatible sizes. And then when this concept came up of an ocean rowing race, we thought this is perfect, because it combines his skills and my skills. So that's how it all came about.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing I wanted to ask about was you talked a lot about how you played these movie scenes in your head over and over, either about him going away or about you arriving and seeing your family. And you made some references to how that's really helpful to you now in your everyday life. So I was wondering if there's any other kind of crossover between the life of a professional adventurer and, what some of us might consider like standard, business or day-to-day life. What kinds of things do you think that brings to the table of being an adventurer?
Well, for me, there was a whole string of strategies that I didn't have time to mention in today's talk that I have directly taken from the adventure experience and put into the business on a day-to-day basis, really. One example would be when they set up the link to send me all those text messages. What blew me away was there was one young man who used to send me messages who was on dialysis. He had kidney failure, and he'd come home every night from hospital and send me more messages. And his messages changed my journey. His story changed my journey and really inspired me. And it struck me that his words were free. Like, they cost nothing for him to say. He had this abundant supply of free words that he could choose how he used and who he gifted them to. And they felt to me like a gift every day. And yet they made the difference. His story, really, and his words made the difference between me quitting and carrying on. So when I came back to work, I really analysed, how do I use my free words, these abundant supply of words, how do I use them with my colleagues, how do I use them with my customers? And actually I'd get to the end of some days and think, gosh, I've actually not said anything positive to anyone all day. And so I actively went out to try and use my free words more abundantly and more positively. And that was particularly important from a leadership point of view for me as a manager of a small team. When we've had projects that have maybe gone a bit wrong, those are the times when how you use your free words and how you motivate the team using them, very consciously using them, it can be really powerful at turning the morale of a team around.
Mm-hmm. That's great. In closing, I know that this is kind of like the beginning, so it's really early here. You did a first presentation of the morning, or like one of the first keynotes of the morning. But just in the few hours that you've been here, have you noticed anything or picked up on anything that's of interest to you in terms of our industry and what this whole event is about?
I mean, there's been a real buzz already. It's great to see 1,000 people so engaged. For me, what's fascinating is, it's a world I don't know very much about. I've worked for a few market research companies just in the last few months, actually, so I've started to become more aware of it. And I'm fascinated by an industry that is evolving so quickly and having to because of technology, and seeing everyone here kind of buzzing about how do we do that is really exciting. And for this many people to come together, you've got to think some great ideas are going to come out of these next few days.
Well, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.